Brooke, let's start. Everyone, meet our next speaker, Brooke, from Bank of USA. Welcome.
Hello, ready for me to start? Shall I begin? Looks like it's 7:05. Okay, my name is Brock Dubbels. I am a user researcher here in San Francisco, California. I work for a big bank in an innovation lab. And the thing that I want to talk to you about today is the role of mobile in the new physical marketplace. Part of what I hoped in this talk is to get to know the physical marketplace and the role of mobile as I visited with you in St. Petersburg. I may have to ask you some questions as we go so that I know what the truth is versus what I read on the internet. So I hope you'll be willing to take some questions on the microphone, and you can ask me questions too. I'm hoping that this isn't seen as a very formal activity, that we can ask questions and we can have a really good time together. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right. I didn't hear everybody say yes. Yes. All right, perfect. So what I'd like to do is wonder, since I believe that this is now like 5 p.m. now, right? For you? Yeah. Okay. This is a perfect time to be doing yoga. How is it feeling? Are you enjoying the yoga? You see how wonderful this illustration is doing yoga for us?
We already did yoga some 2 speakers ago.
Oh, no. You know, it is good for you to do yoga twice. But the idea here is, if you have a shoulder that you use the mouse on like I do, look at my mousing shoulder. It's got a cast on it. Anyway, if you would, what I'd like you to do is actually stand up and give that shoulder a stretch and breathe into it. Really, would you do it now? I'll do it with you. Now what I'd like you to do is reach up towards the ceiling, turn your Okay, so turn your palm facing backwards and pat yourself on the back. Because you deserve a strong pat on the back for taking time to be with me before it's time to go party. And I am so grateful. You deserve a pat on the back. The reason why I started with this is because I have a strong belief in the power of the physical, especially in the power of embodiment when it comes to cognition and the role of emotion and the way that we experience the world, life, and generally have experiences, that the body is very important to our experiences, even when we're not engaging the body. So I will try to bring in some research. My background is in psychology. So for example, there is research that shows even just looking at pictures of people stretching activates the system involved in the stretch, where you are creating a simulation in your mind while inhibiting the actual stretch. So as we look at somebody or a picture, we may actually simulate what's going on in that picture in our body and in our mind. And that's why the body is so important. And when we talk about the new physical marketplace, what we're really talking about is our experience being present physically in a context, and what that means now for the mobile experience. What I'd like you to do you all have phones with you? Yeah. Would you be willing to use your phone or computer and to, I don't want you to do it if you have to pay a fee to do it, but I thought this would be a good way for me to learn a little bit about what you know about the physical experience of the marketplace. What is it that stands out? What are some of the descriptions that you would think of with the physical experience of the marketplace? I can tell you, I visited Irkutsk in Siberia in February of 2002, and it was very cold, and we were out in the marketplace, and many of the things that we were buying were frozen on the stands, and we would come home and we would thaw them out and cook them. It's a very different open marketplace than what I had left where I was living in Norway in the summer, where it's typically not held in the winter. So a very interesting difference. But what was exciting to me was the difference and the feelings of, even though it was cold, it was invigorating, it was surprising. I was discovering new things. We were exploring. And the physical attribute. Oh, no responses yet. They will appear. And what I want to know about the physical marketplace, let's see, did anybody type a response? Let's just yell them out. Here's one, still works. One, two, three. Must have been a testing. Well, go ahead and keep voting, because the reason why I do this in the beginning, I don't know if many of you speak to leadership or in tech, we call them the C-level, C-suite. They're usually CEOs, CIOs, things of that nature. And one of the important things to do is get them to commit to what they know before you start talking. This is called a KWL. Would somebody write down something you want to know about mobile in the physical environment? Like, I want to know how mobile works to contextualize a store. I want to know how mobile helps me make friends out in the world. I want to know how mobile can help me do yoga. So the idea here is, as we learn what we want to know, we have a very clear understanding of what the audience knows in some cases, okay? Good. What is a new physical marketplace and how is it different from the old one? I don't know if any of you have been watching Marie Kondo on Netflix. She's the woman from Japan who says you must keep things that spark joy. What we wanted to do was look at physical places and contexts that spark joy for people. Why do people choose to go to these places? And part of our reason is a brick and mortar location is very important for presence. It's a very important piece of being considered established. So many companies here in the US included, like Amazon, who never had a physical bookstore, are now opening physical bookstores as well as physical grocery stores called Whole Foods and then Amazon and Amazon Go. And one of the reasons is it provides customers with a sense of tradition and legacy as far as value propositions and non-tangible value. Is everybody aware of the three common business terms in English of value? They are commodified value, which is what I need to live, like water, good food, clothing, kind of Maslow's hierarchy. Non-tangible value is this makes me a more effective professional, helps me with my work and my chores. For example, a computer provides non-tangible value. Aspirational value is something where it's like in marketing, where we believe that the way we market a thing is pursued because people are trying to buy a better life. For example, buying a much nicer car than you need because you want to feel like you're participating in that lifestyle, even though it may be a challenge for you to make those car payments. So aspirational value is kind of what we're after here when we think about the locations that we want to open and the impression or the physical experience we want people to have as they're going into these places. They should spark joy. So as part of this, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the researchy part because we're researchers, and I'm going to tell you all of my tricks. And hopefully you will tell me your tricks, and we will all be tricky people. So when we began to start on this, we wanted to start right away. I look for existing research on the automated workplace. And by automated workplace, I mean places where you can do things without relying upon another person. So basically autonomous or empty places where you can still get your product or service through some type of digital or mechanized function. We wanted an audit of automated marketplace by going and seeing how they work. We wanted to do discovery and observation, and that meant coming up with a rubric for criteria. For example, one category is how does a company provide its call to action in a physical space? As digital designers, this is probably a technique that we know well, which is defining and designing a web page where people know exactly what to do. The call to action is kind of in the first place that somebody looks on the page, they know exactly what to do and jump right into doing it and getting it into our funnel and our app and make everybody very happy. So along with that, we had a rubric for discovery and observation and a discussion guide. And those were created to do subject matter expert interviews, which helped us to reinforce and test our first thoughts on this discussion guide and rubric. We went into the marketplace, the physical marketplace, and had over 100 conversations on people's goals visiting the automated marketplace. And we talked to them through intercepts, which is we would stop them and say, excuse me, would you have a minute for a Starbucks coffee card? It's $10 and I just need a couple minutes of time. And they would answer. 25 online moderated, meaning I would talk to them like I'm speaking to you on places that spark joy. And they would show me around their home or wherever they were about places that sparked joy for them, made them feel like home, how place was special. Then I conducted 8 walking tours where we each wore a camera, and it's very much like wearing glasses. And we walked around Market Street, which is the main walking street in San Francisco, and looked at places that sparked joy for us, like, oh, that sunset is beautiful. Oh, I love the huge windows on that building. This building freaks me out. It's painted bars all the way across the window. It looks like a jail. So as we began to comment on what we liked and we didn't like, we would have a conversation about what sparked joy for us about these places and really began to talk about the deeper things that we cared about and what it is that made that moment excellent. Additionally, 24 people were kept in touch with over 28 days to talk to them about a deeper experience. In this case, what is your experience of money? And what we wanted to do was both have cross-sectional as well as longitudinal data in order to begin having a stronger sense with more reliability and validity, some of the things that we wanted to share with our product owners and our design team. Are there any questions so far about the methods? No? Okay. Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one, but I need to know how many people have watched Marie Kondo. I'm not alone here, right? All right. So when we began this trip, we wanted to know, well, how many places are automated and without people? And how will customers respond to the removal of human support in the physical marketplace? And we actually found quite a few places where products that were traditionally facilitated through human relationships were being replaced with machines. So for example, you can have an urban clothing experience. You can go to an ATM. You can go to Robot X and have a robot make your coffee. I think that part of the thrill of that is watching the robot wreck your coffee and watch it spill. It's kind of I would say almost more entertainment than it is coffee, but or having keys made. Or do you have Amazon Go in St. Petersburg? Not yet. So these are new stores. Go ahead.
Go ahead. We have no Amazon Go and probably will not be.
Okay, well, maybe you'll find something like it. The thing that we found in all these locations is, except for the food, the clothing kiosk, the ATM, there were usually people staffed in the building, and that's kind of breaking our rule about the autonomous marketplace. But we wanted to see how people were making do and how they found the call to action within the physical environment, being that the social environment, which we usually depend upon for learning, was gone. The Amazon Go, you can see here, actually has little gates. And you use your phone, you open up the Amazon Go app, you scan it, it lets you in, and then the shelves, the products, the ceiling are just full of cameras and sensors to know that you've walked in, it knows your account now, and whatever you pick up, it's going to put in your cart on your mobile app. And even if you pick something up and hand it to your friend and say, oh, I think you would like to drink this, they're going to charge it to you. So be careful. But the idea is that in this case, the Amazon Go has decided that their value proposition is that over lunch, most people have 15 to 30 minutes. And the problem that they face is getting their lunch fast enough so that they can actually sit down and enjoy it. So what they did is they got rid of the cash register queues so that people can just walk in and out. You'll see there that there are actually people there because it is a package drop-off place. So it's kind of a storehouse so that when people get things from Amazon that they don't like, they can bring them back. If they have questions, they can come and ask questions. But for the most part, the space is intended to be autonomous and depending upon your own competence. Questions on that?
Not yet.
Okay, so what's the advantages of the autonomous market? In our case, our CEO promised 90 new banks in the next year. And the thing that we realized is that, and I'm saying we because I wasn't part of the conversation, but I was looking for what is the value proposition of doing this. And what I learned is that having these types of marketplaces allows for a much smaller footprint. There's less cost for square footage, which means that employees are not stationed there, which means there doesn't have to be a break room and there doesn't have to be a washroom. So that saves the company quite a bit. Additionally, with the savings, the company can now buy a smaller footprint and have it in a more desirable location with more foot traffic. Because in many cases, the physical location is about marketing and letting your customers see your sign, know you're available, and know that you can do things for them. Part of the power of marketing is making your brand known on a regular basis as if you are ubiquitous and that you will be everywhere for your customer to help them. One of the interesting things is that a lot of people, when they walk into a marketplace, they have a goal in mind. And unless they aren't quite sure of their goal, they oftentimes want privacy. In fact, they will look to their phone for privacy and for learning before they will look to others within the audience or even people who are serving that marketplace to help them figure things out. So unless they need help, people do want to be autonomous in the marketplace, unless, of course, they're looking for a relationship. And I've noticed that in banks where oftentimes, especially our elderly citizens, do like to come in and talk a little bit with the people at the bank. So there's kind of a give and take of where should we facilitate communications with human presence and where should we automate for economy and ease. So when we're thinking about this, if somebody has a goal, and the goal here is to wash their clothes in a washing machine, and they need to go to the washing machine, and this is a part of individual agency, right? I'm going to be going off Michael Tomasello's work on Becoming Human or the Origin of Human Communication. I hope you will read his books. I think he is very enlightened, very, very good research. So one of the first things that we're looking at is individual agency. I need to wash my clothes. That is my goal. And in many cases, especially in the urban centers of the United States, most people don't have their own laundry machines. And if they do, they're shared in the building and they're coin operated. How many of you right now carry kopecks or rubles in coins? How many of you have enough to do laundry? Do you have coin-operated laundry machines there?
No.
Okay. Well, here in the States, that's how it works, is that you put in quarters in the machine. And what happens if they are out of quarters or you don't have change? It becomes problematic. But in order to find out how to do the laundry, there have to be affordances and constraints. And why do things look and act like they do? It's very much like when you look at your phone and you have audiobooks, your icon might be that of a bookshelf as a skeuomorph. So you know that this is the place for audiobooks or ebooks. So how do we then utilize the physical environment in order to help people to understand the call to action, what they can do here, and what are some of the affordances and constraints that exist in this physical marketplace without people? This is very important when people lack prior knowledge, because prior knowledge is the basis of our ability to learn new information. So we can know or predict success if somebody has had recent, frequent, and congruent prior experience doing similar activities in the past. Those things predict future success in new activities. So if you've done this activity recently, if you've done it frequently, or you've done similar things recently and frequently, you're more likely to be successful. But if you haven't, you're less likely to be successful, because so much of our current learning and our ability to engage in activity depends upon prior knowledge. So if we lack prior knowledge and the physical marketplace does not give us the call to action and very clear environmental affordances and constraints, we lack the prior knowledge. The first place that we're typically going to look is we're going to look around the space. And we're going to hope that we find some people. But if those people are not there to help facilitate us, then it's very likely that we are going to be looking to our phone in order to help us to navigate towards the goal that led us to this physical marketplace, in this case, to do laundry. So this leads to a question, and it's based upon three ideas that I believe are very important. What sets us apart as human beings is, one, our individual agency. This is very similar to what we experience with other species in the natural world. Paired agency, we're special. And I don't want to say that we're exceptional or better. It's we're different in a way where we can actually predict the needs with empathy of others, especially our partner, to know what they might need because we know what they might like and what their goals are, and surprise them by giving them an experience or a thing that helps them with their goals and their own happiness. And more importantly, when we compare ourselves to many of the animal groups, you may see what looks like cooperative behavior, but in a closer review of psychologists, ethnographers, ethnologists studying troops of monkeys, for example, notice that they are not cooperating. What they are doing is using each other as tools. And this is very different from humans if they hunt or they shop. I guess hunting is the equivalent, shopping is the modern day equivalent of hunting, right? And the last one is group agency, which is we can actually come together as a culture, as a social construct in order to work towards a goal. So when we take on this question of what is the role of mobile in the new physical marketplace, what we're thinking about is, what if they don't have prior knowledge, and what if there isn't social help available? How do we place support for the use and the fulfillment of these goals in the physical marketplace? And one of the places that we looked immediately was the digital phone. Because both the digital phone and the physical marketplace are going to be opportunities for us to talk about our product, to share our value proposition, and to seamlessly support them in their goal so that they can move towards the larger goal that they have for their day. So what we need to consider then is, why do things look and act like they do? And this is the physical marketplace. And even if we're looking like at a screen like we did that guy doing that wonderful yoga stretch, we don't really have it in our prior memory until we actually do it. So to be is to do is to be. So actions speak louder than words. Tell me, I might forget. Show me, I will remember. So these are all typical axioms that have come out from in history from Confucius, from, I believe, Aristotle, and one even from Fred Flintstone. Doobie doobie doobie, to do is to be. Did you have Fred Flintstone cartoons?
Yeah, we do.
See, the world is kind. Fred Flintstone is everywhere. And one of the things that I want to get to here is how many of you are interested in psychology and memory? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, wonderful. Because I think that having a strong sense of psychology and understanding of the mind is going to help you immensely in creating hypotheses to really understand customer behavior and help in your design process. And the arrow starts here and ends here, and it is intended to be kind of a loop. The reason why I drew this is to give you a sense of how we're oftentimes collecting data with people who are either in moderated interviews, intercepts, surveys, phone conversations. Typically, we're looking over here at the usability, desirability, functionality, and we're asking people for stories of their experiences. This is not very reliable. And I'm telling you this because in looking at witness testimony in very serious situations like a trial or in a court with a judge, oftentimes witnesses are considered people who think that they saw something. So oftentimes witness testimony is important, but is not the final factor in knowing the truth about a thing. And as good researchers, what we want to know is how can we get them to exhibit the behavior we want to observe rather than having them tell us a story about that behavior? Because if I can see them walk through the thing that I'm interested in studying and observe the behavior and have them think aloud while they do it, and thinking aloud coming from the Anderson and I'll remember it later. A very good book on protocol analysis from the 70s, which I recommend. So what we want to do is watch behavior, because behavior is what tells us what their mental image of the world is, what they have had recent, frequent, and congruent experiences with, because it comes faster to memory, and the level of expertise and self-sufficiency that they have in conducting the activity and why they know what they know. And this way we can get to some of the deeper drivers that are happening at the far side here of understanding what is causation for people. What causes what? How do they use their logic and their feelings? What motivates them? What objects are important for them to make sense or make meaning of a physical or digital environment? What are the entities? That is the living things or the things that seem to be conscious. What is the role of space? What is the role of time? And we can get to these deeper drivers and move from there. So we dig down into which life events are relevant to you, and we begin doing a fault line method of asking, if you had done this in the past, what thing would you have done differently? And these are ways that we can typically find and imagine how people imagine alternatives to reality, use counterfactual thought. The role of play and pretend is very important in hypothesis generation in science. So being playful in science, you should feel right at home. It's creative, and it depends upon the evocation of counterfactual alternatives and looks at, well, what would you have done if you could change things? Oh, I know I'm getting a stop sign, but I need to jump through this fast. Can you put off your partying for 4 more minutes? I know you asked me to stop.
Yes.
You can give me 4? Oh, excellent. So now that I have all these use cases, I start with a backbone and I work with my group and I say, okay, what steps did they take in order to solve this problem? How does this align with the big ideas that we're trying to address in our epic and mission and vision? And who is it that we're looking at, and who is it that has this problem? What this allows us to do then is build down and describe outcomes and variations in behavior, and we can begin prioritizing and identifying risks that exist based upon assumptions that we find as we begin to map the stories of these people based upon their goals and behaviors. And this is important because then we can begin to do very low fidelity, even paper and pencil type of prototypes and say, okay, so you're going to go to a search engine and you do the search and the search results page comes up like this. What would you do next? What would you expect to happen? Once you've done that, does this remind you of anything? What do you do here? So this allows us to begin co-designing because each one of these 5 models has a different feature and a different call to action related to the goals and the product that we want customers to find, use, have an experience with, and feel good about, and want to continue working with us. And we think, okay, we want to have minimum input, so they don't have to do a lot of finger typing or keyboard typing. We want them to feel like a VIP, where our value propositions, for example, for a subscription, are not a surprise, but something that they cherish. And a dashboard model where we can begin to say, okay, what are they doing here, so that I can begin to use machine learning to predict what kind of learning they'll do in the future when we do a type of contextual computing, which is, I need to open the door here with my credit card. One of the things to consider is that the digital economy is not everywhere yet. Most of the things that we do on our phone, even in countries that have jumped credit cards and are now very much phone oriented for exchanging cash, cash is much more now a digital concern, unless you get out of the urban areas. In fact, in the United States, the majority of the digital economy is in the urban setting. When you get into rural and suburban, you're much more likely to see coins and cash. So this helps us to understand who some of our customers might be and how they might learn and experience in autonomous marketplaces that may depend upon the physical environment as well as their phone in order to make meaning and understand the experience that they need. And what this allows us to do is experimentation with a counterbalance, which is, I have feature A, which are with our current user segment, and this is our experience. It's our feature now. But in observing people, we think that we have up to at least one new feature path that we can offer as a variant. And we're going to counterbalance and say, one group gets feature A first, one group gets feature B second. The second group gets feature B first and feature A second. What this allows us to do is have much more causation rather than just correlation, so that we can have a lot more confidence in the type of analysis that we're doing. Plus, we can reduce our number of sample size and interviews because we're actually doubling the dependent data points with fewer subjects. So this is really a win-win with the economy of your time and working with your participants in gathering research. And besides that, you don't want to just go with correlation, right? I mean, look, everything correlates. The people who died by becoming tangled in their bed sheets, there's a strong association with cheese consumption here in the United States. What do you think about this very strong correlation? It's questionable, isn't it? It's a spurious correlation, but it's a very strong correlation. So what we want to do is empty some of the noise out of the situation and have more control, where we're not just doing ad hoc analysis, but have begun with the type of hypothesis that I've been discussing going into each one of these encounters with our customers. Let's talk use case. How many of you do your own laundry?
All.
Oh, excellent. So you know what this woman is experiencing right now. A tidal wave of dirty clothes. I would run just like she would. So here's a use case, and you might have to turn to a friend or two here in the audience. It is 8 p.m. and I just realized I desperately need to wash my clothing for a job interview tomorrow. I don't have any change to use the laundry machine, which is typical here in the United States. You need change or coin. The laundry room where the machines are doesn't have a change machine. The only store near me is closed. How can you help me? You can be either physical or digital. How can this person be helped to solve their problem? Ideas?
Well, in Russia, you can go to the neighbor and ask for help. And we will help. Someone will help. Someone definitely has to.
If the neighbors...
Yeah, I mean, in Russia, many people have a laundry machine, so you can come to your neighbor, and I think he will provide you.
What if the neighbor doesn't like you or they're not home?
There is another neighbor, you know. In Russia, people are cooperative.
Hopefully you have a lot of nice neighbors who are at home. So what I'm hearing with this idea is that it's really not so much about having coins, is it? That's really not the problem we're trying to solve. The problem that we're trying to solve is this person needs clothes for an interview in the morning. So how do we solve these problems if we are a mobile device and we realize you're walking to a bank and you're looking for coins so you can do your laundry, and you can pre-bank and say, I need coin for the laundry machines. And our AI, Erica, should be able to say, oh, there's not really a place for coin near you, but I could suggest going to this market where you could buy some clothing. Or your parents aren't far from here. Could you take laundry to their house? Or maybe you could go to the grocery store and buy some detergent and wash your clothes in the sink. Or your roommate is not home. I'm sure they would not mind if you wore their clothing. So the idea, that's a joke. Don't do that. Now you can wear your roommate's clothing. You should ask first, right? I'm just trying to be funny. Okay. So can you help me? The question is, sure, we can help you, because what we're trying to do is solve the problem of the clothing, not the coins. And in many cases, when we look in urban centers, what we're finding is many more of these washing machines are digital. And you can see here that this person is using their phone in a digital experience, whereas in the past, many have used the physical. And as we explore the role of the mobile in the physical experience, we begin to see that mobile is what helps us to understand the daily routines. And if we want to improve or introduce a new product, we have to be part of a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious cycle. And that is to fit into their routines. In this case, the role of contextual computing and the role of place, that is space, time, and intention, is very important. And as we understand our desire, explore what are our options for that desire, identify goal importance, initiate it, routinely commit, we may find that our phone or a friend or a place is going to help us organize and curate that experience. And that's really what we want to be doing with our mobile devices now, is really augment experience and help people solve a problem by reducing the complexity of the problem, saying, well, what is it you really need to do? I need clothing for my interview tomorrow to feel confident. And we can learn from that by asking people and having them demonstrate behavior about how would a human help facilitate that? And how can we do that with a phone through advice? So when we begin to do these types of things, and we're putting our web-based artifacts up, what we're finding through this method is that we're actually being very successful, and we're increasing our conversion rate by 2%. And in this case, a projected annual lift of almost $2.9 million. But this doesn't really help us with our recurring charges for our subscription, which is 90% of our income. So that required a dashboard. And in this case, working with the groups to find out what are dashboards. And they were given a spaceship, cargo ship, passenger ship, snowmobile. And what we learned is that a dashboard provides data that supports the user towards facilitation of their goal. So they have a desirable choice, a desirable action, and a desirable outcome. And that way they have the aspirational value of our product, and they feel good about our brand because they've had success with it, and not success with just a less than desirable choice, but they've had a good choice. And the insights for this is that people do want to look to their app in the new contextual physical marketplace, because when people are missing and the physical environment does not give us the call to action, we may go to our phone to say, what do I do here? And we want to augment. And in contests where highly skilled physicians are put up against highly trained AIs, the physicians still win. Oops. But when they're augmented with the AI, their increase in effectiveness goes way up. So errors fall almost 85%. So they go from human 96.6% to almost a 3% jump. They get a better sense of goals and past routine, better desirable choices. I know you're telling me to stop. I'm just about stopped. And then providing a reality check.
Sorry,
See,
but
that's
we
the reality check
get
where he
out
says
of
stop.
sorry, but we get out of time very much. We need to finish it.
Okay. So the insight, what is the role? To enhance life, not to distract from it. And this comes through contextual computing, understanding the role of the mobile device when people are not available and the physical marketplace does not provide affordances. Our dashboard traffic increased our conversion rate by 1.6% using these methods with a projected annual performance of $20 million. So this does work. Oops, we're not going to do what I learned. This is the end. And I really want to thank you for being with me and not just running off to party like I know you want to do at the end of the day. But please, let's connect on LinkedIn, because I am really keen to connect with you and make colleagues. And I'm hopeful that what you've seen here today will get you energized and interested in what I do as a researcher and how I work with surveys. And in this case, in the workshop online, we'll be going through the playbook and QCanvas of what those, and you will get hands-on experience walking through some of the techniques that I shared. You will learn how to use the QCanvas example, which is useful for creating a very reliable and valid survey tool, as well as inventory, which can be used as a questionnaire or discussion guide in order to elicit behavior rather than just asking for stories. And what this allows for is multiple traits for multiple methods, which means that you don't have to do these longitudinal studies. You can do a lot of small cross-sectional studies over time in order to increase your reliability, your replicability, and your validity, and thus your findings become very much more important to your product people and your designers. And they say, yeah, I have a lot more certainty and confidence that Brock gave me some research I can trust. So thank you for running late with me. I am so grateful for your being there and for inviting me to be with you.
Thank you very much. Sorry for hurrying up you. Is there questions? No, there's no questions. I guess we can finish it. Thank you for your speech. It was very interesting.
Oh, good. Well, I hope that you found value in it. I really enjoyed doing the research, and I'm very grateful to be with colleagues who are interested in learning about it. You know, if I go home and tell my wife, she's like, this is what you do. So it's very nice to be with people who do what I do and say, oh, well, that's very interesting. I'd like to talk more about that. So this is what I love about being at conferences and finding colleagues and sharing these stories and experiences with you and learning from you. So thank you.
Thank you too. Goodbye.